Welcome back to Switchcraft, everybody. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the continued rumors of Game Pass coming to the Nintendo Switch and why somebody seems to have put a kibosh on that. We're also going to talk about Ace Attorney games coming over, well, certain Ace Attorney games coming over to the West for the first time that have previously only been in Japan. We will also talk about Labo and whether or not it's going to continue to stick around. And finally, we will mention very briefly Lego and what's going on with that. Let's get started. But before we do, click on all of the YouTube buttons because it really does help. If you're listening to this podcast in your favorite podcast player, do me a favor. Head on over to nerdnest.tv and click on subscribe. And if you're watching on the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast. It's free. It's easy. It helps out. Let's jump in with this picture right here. And for the audio listeners, I'll explain. There was another Xbox event, and in the background, yet again, we saw a Nintendo Switch on the shelf behind everybody. And this is fairly interesting. You know, Microsoft, why are they showcasing Nintendo's console? And it's not the first time that they've done it. They had done it in the past. You could see Phil Spencer, who's the executive vice president of gaming at Microsoft. He has one behind him as well. So why are people doing Microsoft presentations with a Nintendo Switch in the background? Well, there's obviously a couple of reasons. One, maybe they really like the Nintendo Switch. Like, generally, I'm sure that there are plenty of people who work at very high levels in the gaming industry that don't play video games. They're just really good at business, and so companies hire them. I don't think that's always the case. You know, a lot of times the reason that people end up in that industry is because they are excited about that industry. If you don't care about making I don't know, gizmos, then you probably don't want to go work at a gizmo company, no matter how much money they're paying you. You want to do something that you enjoy. And if you're really good at something, then you can probably make money doing that something at a place that makes a thing that you are also interested in. So the idea that that these Microsoft employees are making a Microsoft presentation with a Nintendo Switch in the background is because they just happen to like the Nintendo Switch. Okay, that's definitely a possibility. At the same time, you know, there's a lot of planning that goes into these kind of things. I mean, I'm just a nerd in my attic, and I spend a ton of time trying to figure out the best way to set up things behind me in order to make the background more interesting. Well, when somebody like these people at Microsoft are doing that, they also have somebody like that says, "Oh, you can't have that on the shelf because of this reason. You can't have this on the shelf because it sends this message or whatever." So for them to get it past everything and still have the Nintendo Switch in the background, it's very interesting to me. So my guess is maybe it does mean something. Now, a lot of people, and I've talked about this on the show before, a lot of people have said, okay, well, it means that Game Pass via xCloud is coming to the Nintendo Switch. And I can totally understand why people want that. And as I've said before, I can understand why Microsoft would want to do that. And I can understand why Nintendo would want to do that. However, I don't think that Nintendo would go along. And, you know, there's an investment advisor named David Gibson. He was replying to Matt Piscatella on Twitter. Basically, Matt Piscatella was saying those same arguments that I was saying about how Microsoft would, you know, see a lot more people subscribing to xCloud if it ran on the Nintendo Switch, and Nintendo would sell a whole bunch more Nintendo Switches if xCloud was on the Switch. So it would be, you know, financially a benefit for both companies. But I've always said, I don't think Nintendo would do it. Well, David Gibson, basically, he said, essentially, yeah, I talked to Nintendo, And they told me directly that they would not put other streaming services on the Switch. Now, I don't know David Gibson. I don't know how. I mean, he is a game on his profile on Twitter. It says games, internet, social media, tech, and IT are my interests. Co-founder of Astris Advisory Japan KK. I don't know if he's a trustworthy source. I mean, we all had somebody whose uncle worked at Nintendo when we were growing up. So maybe he's just blowing smoke. But I don't know. Maybe he's not. Who knows? The fact of the matter is that even whether David Gibson actually spoke to somebody at Nintendo or not is completely beside the point. I think most people understand that Nintendo is a very closed off company. They very much like to be completely in control of everything they do. Current problems in the eShop aside. So would they do this? I really don't think so. All right, so that goes back and begs the question, why do we have Nintendo Switches in the background of Xbox presentations? Probably because A, Nintendo Switches are really popular, and it gets a lot of people talking about the Xbox event that otherwise wouldn't be. Like, I mean, I'm being a little cynical here, but isn't it possible that they just said, hey, you know what, if we put a Switch in the background here, people are going to screenshot that and freeze frame it, and they're going to post that on the internet, and then it's going to get a lot of people talking about our event that may otherwise not be talking about our event. And sure, that is pretty cynical of me to think that way, but I mean, is it really outside the realm of possibility? Obviously, the last part, or maybe not the last, but one more option would be that Microsoft is publishing a game that is coming to the Nintendo Switch sometime in the near future. And then finally, you know what? No, not finally. I think that that's all the ones that I can think of. If you can think of a reason why we would have a Nintendo Switch in the background of these Xbox videos, leave a comment in the comment section down below over at nerdnest.tv. All right, let's move on. I want to talk about a game series that I have never played, but I've heard nothing but fantastic things about, and that is Ace Attorney. I've never played an Ace Attorney game. I don't know that this is going to pull me into the Ace Attorney games. I'm fairly certain that the whole reason why I've not yet played an Ace Attorney game is because when I look at it, it just doesn't seem interesting to me. And I know that there's a lot of people who adore this series, and they can't understand why I look at Ace Attorney and I say, well, that looks boring. It just looks boring to me. But I know that there's a lot of people that love it. So even though this is not exciting to me, I wanted to share it with you because I know that people who like Nintendo tend to get pretty excited about Ace Attorney stuff. So the great Ace Attorney Chronicles is coming to the Nintendo Switch on July 27th. Now, I don't know if we already knew the release date or not, but the thing is that they're also bringing over versions of the game, or Ace Attorney games, that have only ever been in Japan. They've now been translated, and they're coming over to the West, both to Switch, PS4, and Steam. All right, so it says here these are two previously Japan-only games, and I guess it's set like in Victorian times, and you're gonna have like a character who looks like Sherlock Holmes, but very much is not Sherlock Holmes, so much that their name is Herlock Sholmes. And if you think I'm joking about that, I'm not. But, you know, there's a character who's Sherlock Holmes, and so it almost looks like it's got like this Victorian English kind of thing going on, but mixed with Victorian era Japan stuff going on. I always have to say that even though I don't play the Ace Attorney games, I love their art style, and I wish that they were the kind of game that I would enjoy. It's the same thing with like point and click adventures. I look at a point and click adventure and my brain says, "Oh, imagine the possibilities of the fun that you could have with this kind of game. And then every time that I convince myself that, all right, I'm going to buy this point and click adventure and I'm going to play it, I'm always disappointed and I never enjoy it nearly as much as I thought I was going to. And that's the kind of feeling that I get from Ace Attorney, is that, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like I would just be disappointed by playing it. And again, let me know down below if I'm completely wrong about that. But if you are a fan of Ace Attorney, then this is actually 2 games. It's called Ace Attorney, The Great Ace Attorney Adventures, and The Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve. And again, they were only in Japan previous to this, which I think a lot of people are going to be excited about. Now, if we could only get Mother 3 over here, then people would really stop bothering Reggie Fils-Aimé. The reason I bring that up is because Reggie, and I didn't think to put this in the show notes, but I think it was like a week ago, Reggie, who, if you are unaware of who Reggie Fils-Aimé is, he was the president of Nintendo of America before Doug Bowser became the president of Nintendo of America. And I actually got to meet Reggie once, and he was really cool. But Reggie Fils-Aimé tweeted, I don't know, like a week ago, something along the lines of, boy, I love playing this translated copy of Mother 3, or something along those lines. And of course everybody's like, whoa, does that mean something? And I don't think it means something. I think Reggie just likes messing with people. That's the reason he would always wear like a pin on his suit, like a lapel pin on his suit, and everybody would look at that lapel pin and they'd say, he's wearing a Metroid pin. That means we're getting a Metroid game. He's wearing a Captain Falcon pin. That means we're getting a new F-Zero game, like that kind of thing. I think Reggie just likes to poke people a little bit, and maybe I'm wrong, but that seems kind of funny. All right, moving on. Nintendo, like, man, they had this huge item. They had somehow figured out a way to convince us to pay them for a box full of cardboard. Like, Nintendo figured out a way for us to give them money in exchange for a box full of cardboard, and it was really cool. This was Nintendo Labo. Now, on Nintendo's website, they recently removed references to Labo from the site. And a lot of people said, okay, hold on. Does this mean that we're not going to be able to get Labo anymore? I bet you that Labo sales like went through the roof when people first heard about this. But Nintendo has said that, no, don't worry. We're still going to have it, in stores and stuff. You're going to be able to buy it, but we're just updating our website. And, it's ridiculous for somebody, like, think about all of the things that Nintendo makes. Do you really need all of them featured on the website all of the time? It doesn't really make much sense. So I get why they removed it. It's kind of a smaller part of their overall structure. But to remove it now is a huge surprise to me. And the reason why it's a huge surprise to me is because we're coming up on the release date for Pokemon Snap, new Pokemon Snap. And there's a lot of people who are very, very excited for that. And there is a Labo device, it's cardboard, for crying out loud, Bill. There is a Labo kit that you can buy that turns the Nintendo Switch into a virtual reality camera. And it's really cool. Why they aren't like leaning into that, or even selling an updated version that has like Pokemon all over the outside of the cardboard, I don't understand that. If they were going to, you'd think that they would have already announced it, since the game is like right on our doorsteps. So seems kind of weird to me that they're not leaning into that. But maybe, you know what, whenever I've played a Pokemon game, the thing that listen, if you've listened to my content for any length of time, you know that I'm really forgiving when it comes to frame rate. Pokemon games tend to have a pretty terrible optimization no matter what platform they're on. If it was on the 3DS or if it's on the Nintendo Switch, it tends to be pretty janky. They don't put in the effort that a lot of other companies do in order to make the frame rate look really good, or the optimization to make the game run really well. Um, and maybe they don't have to. It's tends to be a turn-based game, so that doesn't really matter all that much. Um, it tends to sell anyway, so why bother putting in all the extra work? But I can see that, you look at Pokemon Snap, the videos that they've shown us, the game looks pretty. Would the game run well enough when you have to render everything twice? Because that's the way that Labo works with the VR camera headset, is it splits the screen in two, and it displays the same image on both sides, just slightly apart from each other, and that gives you that 3D effect. That's how virtual reality stuff works. And would it work? Would it run well enough on the Nintendo Switch? I don't know. Like that requires more horsepower. And let's be honest, do we really want it? I mean, yes, it'd be cool, but the screen is 720 pixels for the resolution. And look, I've used it. It looks bad. Like you have these little plastic magnifying glasses that go into the cardboard setup, and what it basically does is it takes everything that's underneath those lenses and makes it bigger. So those giant pixels that you're seeing on the Nintendo Switch screen, which is only 720p, it makes those big pixels look even bigger and really, really ugly. And I don't know that people are going to want to do that. And maybe, here's another reason why maybe they're not doing it. Maybe when, like, Nintendo has specifically said, don't use this for very long. In fact, they made it so that it doesn't have a strap. You have to hold it up the whole time. Don't use this for very long, because they don't want to get in trouble with anybody having a problem with their eyes or something like that, even though there's no actual research that says, you got to be careful. A lot of the VR companies are being extremely careful just so that they don't get sued later. And, Nintendo didn't even give you a strap, so you can't keep it on your head the whole time unless you do like a third-party solution. You just have to hold it up. But maybe doing a level of new Pokemon Snap is longer than the recommended time that Nintendo has in their guidelines for using VR with the Switch, which would be another reason why they wouldn't do that. Not something I ever thought about before until right now when we're talking about it. Anyway, Labo isn't going anywhere. Nintendo has basically said, hey, it's going to be here. You can go and get it at retailers, so don't worry. Speaking of things that you can get at retailers that I'm not going to be buying, that would be Lego Luigi. Nintendo of America tweeted this out. They said it's Lego time. Introducing Lego Super Mario Adventures with Luigi starter course. Meet up with Pink Yoshi and go face-to-face with Boom Boom. Again, this is cool. It's not something I'm interested in. I would like less plastic stuff in my house. But for people who want to have this stuff, this is so friggin' cool. If you've not looked at what Lego Super Mario is, it's a little figure. The eyes of the figure are little LCD screens, and the chest of the figure is a little LCD screen, and so is like the mouth. Actually, my guess is it's probably all just one screen, and then they just have plastic covering it up. But he's got like this little tiny screen on it, and it makes him like animated. So as you are, moving the character around like you do when you play with an action figure, his face changes and does cool things. It's really neat. I'm a big fan of what they've done. He's got a little speaker, so he talks. He has a little camera in his feet, so he can tell what he's standing on. And basically, they've done all of that stuff, and they said, all right, let's skin it with Luigi. Now, the original Lego Super Mario came out a while ago. It's surprising to me how long it took them to bring the Lego Super Luigi out with the pink Yoshi. But, I fully anticipate that we're going to continue to see them do this. We probably ought to see like a Peach. We ought to see a Toad. Probably like a Bowser character. Maybe Bowser Jr. Bring in maybe not Wario and Waluigi, because those guys are creepy. And this is a toy aimed at young kids. And, even though they're Nintendo characters, you look at those guys, there's something off about them. But anyway, I think it's cool. And if it's something you're interested in, then you can probably find it at your local retailer starting very, very soon. You can pre-order it starting today. And I'm bringing it up now. It costs $60 for the set, which honestly, when you talk about when you are talking about Lego sets, $60 for this, not too bad. I think that's actually pretty reasonable. Lego sets are ridiculously expensive, so that is quite surprising to me that this particular starter course is only $60. I don't remember how much Lego Super Mario is. I'm going to click on that right now and find out. The Lego Super Mario, yeah, look at this. The Lego Nintendo Entertainment System set, which if you didn't know, you could build like a little Lego TV, a little Lego Nintendo, and then there's like a crank on the side, and you can play Mario on this Lego TV, which is bananas. That thing is $230. The Lego Super Mario starter set is, man, I can't even find it on here. Where is the thing? There's all these extra sets. The starter course, $60 as well. So, but man, they have a lot of extra courses that you can pick up. But now you got Luigi in there. What do you guys think? Are you going to pick up Luigi? Let me know in the comment section down below. I think it's cool, but I don't want it in my house. That's it for this episode of Nintendo Switchcraft. If you enjoyed the show and you're watching over on YouTube, make sure you click on the buttons before you get out of here. And before we get out of here, I also want to take a moment to thank our producers who headed over to patreon.com/runjumpstomp and are supporting me over there. That would be Solo Something, Orange Thunder, John Eisenmenger, Bowser, and Abigail 13. Thank you very much for listening, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.